Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of Divergent Dialogues. This week, we are talking about disclosure and workplace accommodations.
Yes, so I was just saying to Tina, I think I'm currently embodying a lived experience of workplace burnout. I'm actually going on leave next week. So, usually, the week before I go on leave, my body starts to relax and my brain starts to relax. And then every single ache and pain in my body, unimaginable, like just turns up and is like, hello. So yeah, I think this is a very timely topic for us to be talking about.
It really is. Like we're moving towards like the end of the financial year, the middle of the calendar year, and I'm certainly feeling those burnout vibes, and people around me are as well.
Yeah,
It's yeah, it's a
yeah,
time.
it is. It is. I actually, I thought I might start with this. I asked my partner if she wanted to be part of one of these episodes, but she's also experiencing workplace burnout. She's too tired and she's like dying on the couch, which was fair. But it was really lovely. She actually wrote this, so I'm not going to disclose where she works for like privacy or whatever. But anyway, this is what she wrote. I'm a 26-year-old female queer late diagnosed ADHDer with co occurring OCD. What a mix, right? A push and pull of both sides makes life all that much more interesting. I work full time as a store manager in a hospitality business. I have a special interest for operations, development, and with every ounce, I have a passion to create a neuro-affirming environment at my workplace and advocate for people to accommodate their needs and any extra supports as a neurodivergent person in the workplace. What is my experience? This all depends on who you're working with and how educated they are about neurodivergence. And I can say a lot of people have no idea. For the most part, personally, it's a love hate relationship with being burnt out 24/7, with the constant feeling of overstimulation from noise, light, and too much social interaction, and loving my job and what I do. Setting stronger boundaries and seeking professional help from a mental health social worker. Not me, by the way. She sees her own mental health social worker. Has been evident in assisting me to manage my ADHD and OCD in the workplace. Although there is a lot of acceptance, the lack of knowledge that neurotypical people in the workplace have does create a big sense of prejudice and borderline discrimination, especially when neurotypicals struggle to accept your limitations. It's disappointing, but I endeavor to change this in the workplace for all. So yeah, I think we can go home now. I think that just sums it up.
Well said. Well said.
Well, we'll be talking more about like burnout and self-care in our next episode, but I think especially the discussion around being misunderstood, people not understanding, feeling discriminated against, I think that's something that we can definitely talk about. Yeah, I guess in this episode. Uh, so yeah,
I
I guess
think that
your thoughts, Tina.
I think that it's we talk about the things that we struggle with, and both of us are at the moment sort of experiencing those burnout vibes, but disclosing your neurodivergence in the workplace, it doesn't necessarily always feel safe to do that. Research suggests that that sense of psychological safety in the workplace is what encourages people to make those disclosures. But how do you know? How do you know if it's safe to do so? Like you can look around and see if anyone else has, disclosed their neurodivergence and how that's been handled. But yeah, it's a scary thought.
It really is. And there's actually been recent research by Davies et al. 2024. And yeah, experiences of stigma, discrimination, and challenges in disclosing diagnoses further complicate employment opportunities. So I thought, yeah, it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about disclosure. So I have my own business, and a big part of my business is around supporting autistic ADHDers, and I use my lived experience. So I'm in a really great position where I've basically created my business around being able to openly disclose that I'm an autistic ADHDer, and I do some teaching with a university, a local university, and I do actually disclose that I'm an autistic ADHDer. So in my tutorial, like my first kind of tutorial class for the semester, I will say that, because I think it just helps. Well, I think it helps other autistic ADHD students to go, oh, okay, cool, and see that connection there in that way, but also for like neurotypical students to see that maybe my teaching and my communication is a little bit different, and having a little bit of an understanding around that. And I even say, like, hey, I'm an ADHD, so I talk a little bit fast. If that's an issue, please let me know. Like, I'm really open. I'm aware of these things, and I'm open to kind of talking, trying to meet you in the middle kind of thing. But in previous workplaces, I definitely haven't been able to do that. And like, I've worked for like government mental health, and like there's no way that I would feel comfortable disclosing that in those spaces, because there's a lot of, I mean, there's there's systemic issues with the clients and the patients. So for staff, I just couldn't even imagine being brave enough to disclose.
Yeah, my experience is much the same. Built my business around who I am and what I need, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to do that. And teaching at the same university as you, I choose to disclose to the students that I'm teaching for similar reasons, because my teaching style is definitely in alignment with my autistic and ADHD parts. And when I am on a topic that is of special interest to me, I tend to info dump. And
really, it's like you have a captive audience to info dump. Like, it's
better when they ask follow-up questions. It's like, oh my goodness, best day ever.
Yeah. No, it's really, I love teaching, but yeah. So I think for me, a big part of my well-being is that I can live and work in my values. And one of my values is being able to be honest and have integrity. And it's, I think there can be a lot of these debates around having boundaries when working with clients, but I've just seen such a big value in being able to connect with my clients through that lived experience lens. And so it's like, it would just be so hard for me to work in a workplace where I couldn't openly discuss with my colleagues, or and it depends, like you got to do it with discernment. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, hey, I'm on autistic ADHD to everyone, but I would really struggle with the feeling that I had to hide it. I would really struggle with that.
Yeah, I think I would as well. And I often talk with my clients in my private practice when they're asking about whether or not they should, whether or not they have to disclose in workplaces. And that it's absolutely a personal choice. But there is unfortunately no guarantee how that's going to go, because there is discrimination, stigma, all that sort of stuff. So I often talk with them about, well, you can absolutely ask for accommodations for things that you need that support with. One client advocated in her workplace for being able to wear headphones because lots of noise in an open office, but for whatever reason headphones sort of weren't allowed. But she advocated for that just around the I get distracted, and the headphones can really help filter out what's going on so I can be concentrating in on my work. And she was successful in getting that. So talking about what is it that you're actually needing accommodated in the workplace, and can you have that conversation irrespective of diagnosis?
Well, exactly. I mean, I would say even for neurotypical people who are in, because they love the open plan offices and the hot desking and all this sort of stuff, and even for a neurotypical person, having access to noise cancelling headphones to be able to block out all these sorts of conversations and hustle and bustle around them, like, of course they're not going to be as distracted as an autistic ADHDer, but I would say that they still would become distracted in those sorts of environments when you're trying to have that deep focus.
Yeah.
So there may be particular accommodations where it's like, okay, maybe it's important to have like a letter from your accredited mental health social worker or your therapist or your like a psychologist or OT or whatever, supporting it. But I mean, some of these accommodations, it would just be helpful for everyone across the board, and putting in more barriers to access these simple accommodations. I think it's kind of silly, really, some of these things, like whether or not someone has, like if someone's in a team meeting and they've got their noise cancelling headphones on, like I could understand why that could be an issue, because they're not going to be able to participate in the meeting. I mean, that would be my ideal, but yes, fair enough. But if you're just sitting there at your desk doing your thing, like, why does it matter whether or not you have headphones in? You can't be 100% accessible to people all the time, especially if you need to sit there and concentrate. So it's a bit silly in my mind.
Oh yeah, I think some of the things that you have to actually ask permission for are a little bit silly. They don't entirely make sense. I think even like the concept of hot desking, I never really got that, to be honest. It
so triggering as an autistic person.
Yeah.
It's incredibly particular about people not touching their stuff and having things in a certain place. It's
I would get into work early for the purpose of securing my favorite hot desk.
Yeah.
No issues doing that, but because the alternative was just too much for me to deal with, which was being stuck on like the shit desk, and I just couldn't handle that.
Yeah, maybe they should.
Dark, and it was right near the fridge in the office, like the crap desk, and so the constant disruptions and like the smell that would come out of the fridge when people would open it. Worst nightmare. I just could not put myself in a position where I could be stuck on that desk.
I'm just thinking now, like, who coined the term hot desking? Like, obviously I'm sitting in autistic brain here, so it's like, why is it hot? Like, what?
Yeah,
the hot part. Well, what? Like, why?
Like, maybe it's like throwing the hot potato. Like no one wants the shit desk. Quick, potato it out.
Well, the only thing I can think of is that, like, when I sit, like when we have a dining table, and when I sit on one of the seats, one of my cats will go and sit on the seat because it's kind of warm. So is it because you can still feel the warmth of the last person that's used the desk? I don't know. Anyway, if anyone has any ideas about like what that means, then let us know, because I've never thought of it, but I'm just like, why is it called hot desking? Anyway, I digress.
I always just assuming that everyone was exactly like me and would get to work nearly an hour early to secure their favorite desk. I thought it was like a capitalist strategy to force people to work longer hours than they're getting paid for. Because the threat of being stuck on the desk near the fridge is just too much for anyone to bear.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past organizations to lean into that, but yeah, interesting perspective. Well, we are
Maybe I've overthought it.
dialogues, so here we go. We're going here, there, and everywhere today. So following on from what you said, so like employers can foster inclusive practices by creating supportive work environments, offering necessary accommodations, and appreciating the unique strengths of autistic individuals. So I think when it comes to accommodations, it's important to think about a few different things. So number one, they need to be individualized. I have seen some organizations taking this kind of tokenistic approach to providing accommodations, so they can be like, look, tick, we're doing the things, but it does need to be individualized. I'm just thinking of an example of one of my clients who they disclosed that they're autistic ADHDer, and they required some accommodations, and this particular workplace apparently has this soundproof booth that you can access for like a certain amount of time if it's approved by HR. The thing is this soundproof booth, that's a bit of a mouthful, is is in the middle of the office. So you might as well stand up and be like, hey, I'm autistic. I'm just going to the soundproof booth for like an hour. Hey, like, might as well get a megaphone going, hey. And like, look, like, as I said, I'm the kind of person who I would love to be openly an autistic ADHD in the workplace, but not everyone wants to do that. And not everyone feels comfortable. And yeah, so my client was like, well, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I don't want to do that.
I'm going to sit in your fishbowl.
Exactly. I was just like, wow, like that would like, it would just cause more anxiety for a lot of people. Like, it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
To access it, because
glass.
I don't know. I didn't ask too many questions because I was just like blown away by it.
Me too, but I've got a million questions now.
But it was just like the idea I got is like this see-through soundproof booth thing, like people can see into it.
Yeah, like Inspector Gadget's Dome of Silence.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so I was just like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And like my client could only access it for like 1 hour a day, and it's like, well, like that's not really gonna, anyway. So yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting, I guess it was a great example of trying to help but actually not helping.
Well, it sounds like maybe a great example of a workplace that needs to consult with neurodivergent people.
Yes, I think so.
Before investing in soundproof booths and
exactly
weird accommodations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's another really important point, is that it's important to have like ongoing employee education programs to avoid negative stereotypes and incorporate diverse lived experience perspective of autistic and or ADHDs, or people with other neurodivergences, that if you don't have lived experience, or you're not engaging with someone who has a lived experience, and you're just kind of pulling things or going on social media and going, oh, headphones are great, like a soundproof booth, that's great. You really need to understand that lived experience to be able to inform those accommodations. And as I said, you're going to check in, ideally, you're going to check in with the particular employee around what their specific needs are. But just generally, you can't just make this stuff up, because it is going to come off really tokenistic, and it might be a complete mismatch.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think that it is the cookie cutter approach to providing accommodations, whether it's in the workplace or the school even, it does feel a bit devaluing and a bit like, oh, okay, yep, tick that box, we're inclusive, we did the thing. Because everybody's different and our needs are different, and our needs can be different on different days. So it does really need that sort of unique understanding and time spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's just like anything, like if you're going to, build a building, you're not just going to go, oh, well, I kind of know how things are put together, I'm just going to put it together. Like you'd consult a builder, an architect, interior designer, you'd consult the experts on, what you're trying to build. You wouldn't just, well, I mean, there's probably some people that would, but I'd be too anxious. Something like that. I'm like, oh my God, it came in on my head. But, if you want to do something properly, you need to consult with the experts and the people that have this lived experience so that they can inform that. Because if you're a neurotypical person, fundamentally you're probably not going to be able to understand autistic ADHD perspectives.
And those nuances of how they how our stuff kind of shows up for us. I've spent a lot of time speaking with my therapist about figuring it all out, what's what and what I need, all those sorts of things. So how can somebody else just come along and assume that they know what I need when I don't entirely know what I need?
Exactly. Even if I had an amazing supportive workplace, they're like, hey, Caitlin, what do you need? I'd be like, can I get back? Like 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a really tricky one, disclosing and asking for accommodations and knowing what those accommodations are. But I think the key to it is going slowly and just feeling into it as you go.
Yeah. Like I've in the past I've talked about wanting to, like, this was prior to having my own business, wanting to disclose, and someone was just like, you can't do that, like you won't get hired. And I was just like, well, I probably wouldn't want to work in an organization that wasn't supportive of neurodivergent people. Like if I don't get the job, well, good, because I didn't really want to work there anyway, if that's their attitude. And I think, it can be challenging sometimes. People, they need work, they need money, they need to take what they can. But I just, as I said before, it's so important for my well-being to be able to be authentically me and not have to hide these things about myself. But it at the end of the day, disclosing in the workplace, it is a choice, much like unmasking. And you have to, like, sometimes it isn't safe to disclose and unmask. So I guess it's important to be discerning around that. And if you're not sure, like, it can be helpful to, like, if you're seeing a accredited mental health social worker or a psychologist or an OT or whatever, it'd be good to check in with them and just talk to them about it and go, look, I've been having some struggles at work, or I've just started a new job, or I've been somewhere for a little while and just been diagnosed. Like, what sort of accommodations could be available? Like, how do you think I could go about asking for these accommodations and things like that? And just having that discussion can be really, really helpful. At the end of the day, it is your choice if you want to do that or not. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. I guess what I thought I would finish on is, I think it's really important for organizations to not only consult with people with lived experience to inform, like, their policies, procedures around accommodations. I think it's really important for organizations as a whole to have, like, autism or like ADHD or neurodivergence like awareness training, because it can really help to build empathy and understanding and potentially reduce misunderstanding in the workplace, because just like, for an example, someone might see someone with their noise cancelling headphones on and be like, oh, well, they're kind of rude, like they're not really kind of being part of the team and all this sort of thing. Whereas if people are like, oh, well, for some people that's just what they need to be able to concentrate, and that's okay. I think just that general awareness is really important.
Yep, I completely agree. And yeah, it's just having the conversations is really important and a great place to start.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I think that's all for us today.
Yeah, well, we will be back with episode 19
very shortly. Well, you'll have to wait 2 weeks, but for us, it's like in 2 minutes. So,
yeah.
Alrighty, no worries. Thanks, everyone.